All right, let's talk to Zeno. Zeno, who is calling in from South Korea. Zeno, you're live on Talk Heathen. What's up?
Hey, I just wanted to talk about the ontology and evidence of a God.
Okay.
All right, let's hear it.
Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you.
So by proving God first, I just want to define God. So God it's subjective. Everyone has their own opinion of what a God is. So God, for me, is basically the origin point of all life in the universe. Maybe the omniverse, if that exists as well, but just the origin point. So ontologically, the surface of let's just take a fruit, like a pear. So the surface of a pear can't exist without the pear itself, correct?
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, genetically
probably grow
speaking,
it in a lab.
Yeah, like you can have like what atoms would typically appear on the surface of a pear on maybe other kinds of fruits, maybe fruits that don't exist anymore, that you could genetically say are the same as that of modern pears. Like, I don't know. That's kind of tricky.
So in ontology, basically an entity, it's dependent on another entity. So you have to have the surface. Well, you have to have the pear first in order to have the surface of a pear. So what I'm getting at is you can reduce things by two. Everything is divisible, right? So you can cut me in half, God forbid. But if you did, you'd have half of me, and then you can cut those pieces in half. And what that's telling you is ultimately everything has an origin point. Now, I'm not saying what that origin point looks like. I'm not saying that it's a man, a guy with a beard. I'm just saying that each entity depends on another entity. And to deny that, you would basically be denying the basic ontology in the world. And so we could reduce everything back to an origin point, and that would be God.
Well, I disagree. I think that is an oversimplification of what we actually observe in the universe. And again, I would go back to this idea that you can have a fruit that could have the exact same surface as a pear, but you would call it a completely different fruit because it has other characteristics. And you could make the argument, well, this has to come from this fruit instead of a pear. And ultimately, what does that mean? It doesn't really mean anything, right? And I don't know why you've chosen life in particular, because in order for life to exist, I mean, as we know it, like it seems that non-living things have also existed. So I would say that God would have to be the origin point of all of that first. If you're saying it's specifically God, then that's almost something completely different. If you want to make these kind of reductive arguments on, well, you have to go smaller and smaller and smaller. Like all we're saying is, well, the stopping point is at God. And I don't know. It's very arbitrary to me. Johnny, you have some thoughts?
Zeno, are you you're just defining the beginning of our universe, or the cause or causes of all existent universes in whatever form they are as God? But are you ascribing to that? Is it just the beginning? Or because the word God doesn't just mean like the origin point for universes, generally speaking. It means some sort of intelligence that has amazing powers. So when you use the word God, you're kind of either intentionally or inadvertently sneaking in a lot of other qualities into that argument, or into that entity. Are you trying to do that, or what's like? I could define God as I'm asking a question. I'm not making. I'm asking a question. So if I say I define God as a graphite and clay tube encased in wood with a rubber end that can erase things, I'm just describing a pencil. So it sounds like what you're describing is physics. Am I wrong, or tell me if I'm wrong?
Yes, you're absolutely wrong. The first
I'm used to it.
I'm
used to it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So the first mistake you're making here is you started by defining God yourself. I'm not saying God is a being. All words are up for grabs. We can define things the way we want to. The important part is to talk about the thing we're defining. So let's separate the thing from the word. So I'm talking about the beginning of everything in the universe and how it came about.
That's different from the beginning of life, by the way. I just want to point that out. Originally, you said God was the beginning of life, and now you're saying he's the beginning of everything. Those are very different things. But go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I didn't start off by saying just the beginning of life. I'm saying
You
that
definitely did, but
God
we have it on recording.
is the source. Okay, but God is the source of everything. So that's not only the beginning of life. That's the beginning of time, space, and matter as well.
Is God God the source of God?
Cool, Zeno. So you're defining the source.
The very beginning.
You're defining God as the source of all time, space, and matter, and the universe itself. That's how you're defining it. You're not saying that it's an
Yes, the very beginning. And I'm pointing it out with ontological evidence that an entity has to depend on another. So we depend on God.
So we depend on the universe.
Everything back.
We depend upon we depend upon the universe, and the universe depends upon whatever forces or circumstances created the universe. I'm rejecting your use of the word God because that's a loaded word. So let's call it physics. You don't want to call it physics, and I wonder why.
Well, no. I reject your wording of physics. So I guess
we reject each other. Oh my gosh.
No, I guess the best.
Why God? Why is it got to be called God, Zeno? Why can't you call it Mush Baru?
Because, well, we can call it that too. We can call it whatever we want. The wording is not important to me. The wording is not important. We're describing the thing. And so an entity ultimately in ontology that is dependent on another entity. And so it doesn't have to be a pair. It could be a can. I have a can in my hand. So the surface of the can can't exist without the can itself. So we know we could reduce everything down. That's important. That's not a fact that we should just throw out. But I think it's easy to destroy anyone who gets into God when they make the argument that God is a man with a beard and some Christian God. That's easy to dismantle. But when you whenever you approach this topic with God as an entity, and you don't have to describe exactly what it looks like, what color it is, or is it a being, is it omnipotent? I have no idea. But what I do know is that you are dependent. You are dependent on that ontologically. If you deny that, you're basically saying magic.
All right, well, riddle me this then. In order for me to create anything, I have to have a brain, right? I have to have the ability to think, reason, right? These things. And if God has these things too, if God has these properties, if he's a creator, you're saying he's the origin point, so everything's coming from him, then he ontologically has what? I'm saying he ontologically has. Okay, fine. God, this being, or even if it's not a being, this thing ontologically is required by other consistent parts to do what it does, right? Because if you're saying that my ability to create, so he's not the origin point. That's my point. You can break this down.
No, he's the origin point for us. So no, he's the origin point for all of us. I never said that God was not.
Well, no. If there's something if God is contingent on other things, then there's an even bigger origin point than God. You see, because if we don't have that origin point, then we don't have God. If we don't have God, we don't have us.
Well, Zeno's trying to get to the very beginning.
I'm not. Well, all right. So here's the thing: the surface of a can, the origin point for the surface of the can is the can itself. So yes, you could be contingent on other things. I know that's controversial for the Christians, but my God is actually contingent upon other things. There are other things that exist before it, but what I'm saying is it's the origin point for you. Now, yes, there's an origin point for God, but we're talking about the origin point for our existence. and
Okay,
and that's
but
the origin
again,
point for our existence.
that's arbitrary. Then you're just stopping it at God. If there's something that's contingent for God, then that means whatever is contingent for God is actually our origin point. Because otherwise, I might as well say, well, my origin point is my mother, because my mother is the one that birthed me. But you're saying, no, we have to go farther back. We have to go to God. And I'm saying, no, we have to go even farther back then. We have to go to the origin point of God.
I agree. I mean, well, we're talking about.
So if God has
if we were
things that are
talking about-
beyond him, if God has things that that make him contingent, then he is not the origin point.
No,
He's not.
because you can again have an origin point of something that is still contingent upon something else. It's the origin point. So X could be the origin point for Y, but I never said that A doesn't exist. So if X is contingent on A, we're not talking about A. If we're having a discussion about X, so if we're talking about your mother, then that's what we would have a conversation about. Now, if you wanted to talk about where does your mom come from, then we would have to talk about that. But right now, we're just talking about the origin point of your existence, of the universe itself.
I don't know. I think this is arbitrary.
Get into meta time and all that stuff. So
Right.
I don't know. We're probably going in circles here.
I think we are too. I think it's arbitrary, and I think it's assertion. I think it's assertion to say that this is the point of origin for us because of this so-called ontological evidence. I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, Zeno, this feels like I'm back in college again, and it's 3:00 in the morning, and I'm back from the bars with my friends, and we're sitting around playing a little Super Nintendo, maybe having a beer, maybe not, and talking about life, the universe, and everything in it. And we're talking about, like, what if I close my eyes and the universe kind of disappeared? I don't know, man. There's a lot of assumptions here. I appreciate your desire to explore this, but I still don't dig the whole sneaking in all the attributes that are commonly understood as God into this argument by saying that God is the origin point for the universe and the multiverse and all that stuff. It just, I don't know. Again, and also you can talk up a storm about it, but show me proof that all this exists instead of this is just some hypothetical concept, right? I don't base my life upon. Zeno, hang on a second. All right, this is a little bit of a delay, so I'll give you a break, and you please give me a break in turn. But this doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't make us look at the world necessarily any different. It doesn't give us any ability to predict things that would happen. This hypothetical God that is the source of all of this existence. So what? So you define the source of the universe as this God. Well, how does that accepting of that premise give you a better handle on navigating this world? Because it seems to me it's just philosophical masturbation. And I don't mean to insult you or masturbators when I say that. How is it not masturbation? Give it to me. Give me all your love.
So all right. Well, it's definitely not masturbation. I can tell you that's what it isn't. But what it is you're just understanding physics of the universe. You're not really going to get too far with just understanding the ontology and the nature of the universe. It's cool to know, but I'm not going to make the argument that, somehow it's going to make your life better. It might make you a better investor. It might make you a master of your world, but it's not. I'm not going to tell you that by knowing this, somehow, you get a magic prize. I'm just here to let you know God is very boring. It's ontological. You can prove it with evidence, and there you go. But it's very simple. So that's all I have.
Zeno, I appreciate it. Thank you. I think, and folks in chat, am I just stupid? Because I'm not grasping this. It's fine. You can say it. I'm stupid, and it's probably pretty true. I don't see it. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Maybe I'm just a simple country lawyer, allegedly.
Here's my take with this. Right? It's like what I'm hearing from this argument, and there's variations of this, right, is that everything has an origin point. Therefore, there has to be an origin point for us, and God is that origin point. Or everything has an origin point, therefore there must be a God. Is actually, I think, is what's happening here. Like, that's how we know that God exists. I mean, like, I don't describing things as everything having an origin point is not clear enough language for me. It is not descriptive enough to describe exactly what we mean when we say that. I think I need language that's a bit more technical. And with that being said, again, I reject this idea based on this claim that God would be the origin point, because if God has contingent parts, then there's something even more basic, right? If we're just talking about what's the most basic in the universe, there's other things we can go to. And also, again, this is an argument of philosophy. This is not an argument of science. I don't even think this is an argument of mathematics. Like, that, and to me, that's weak. I think if we want to really talk about the absolute origins of the universe, we have to incorporate more evidence than just causal observation, because causal observation can lead us to unintuitive results sometimes.
Yeah,
when we actually look at, the world.
Doesn't cause and effect possibly break down when you get to these early periods in physics? Guess what? I don't even know what the answer to that is. That's just rumor that I picked up somewhere by watching videos on the internet. Some of that on the toilet, I'll admit. So, I mean, these are questions to be explored, not merely by we armchair conversationalists, but by the experts in physics who can start saying things about the early universe, and even they are like, well, we can't say jack squat about what happened before this instance of the universe, if such an instance exists. We exist as time-space dependent creatures, and trying to use our time-space dependent brains to understand things outside of this space-time is problematic. I'm not going to say impossible. What the hell do I know? All I can tell you is that this sounds profound, but it doesn't enlighten me any. I'm gonna go. I tell you what, Zeno. I'm gonna go meditate on this.
Johnny, go read a book.
Yeah, I'm gonna read a book about it. I'm gonna meditate on it.
Tell you what, listen to the Third Way Ska, read a book, and see what revelations come from that. Because I guarantee it's gonna do you some good.
Zeno, for real, I'm gonna think about this some more. I'm gonna read up on this. I'm not belittling you.
You got Johnny's brain a thinking. He's a thinking.
Yeah, careful.